It's good, dude. It's good. I can't complain. I get to talk to you. You know what I mean? So I'm happy about it.
Welcome to Lil Talk with Lil Joey, and we have a very special guest from UFC Fight Pass, Uriah Favors, A1 Combat, Misfits Boxing, Ben the Bane Davis. How are you doing, man?
I'm fantastic, brother. Thank you so much for that introduction. Super pumped to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. It's awesome to have you on, and I've been able to make my rounds with a couple of Misfits fighters, and it's cool because you're not even just a Misfits fighter. You've been on many different combat sports commentating. You had the was it leg wrestling? I believe it was.
Yeah, the Fight Circus Indian leg wrestling in Phuket, Thailand. That was something.
That was interesting. That was making the rounds. I thought that was fun. And
Yeah.
I learned about you a little bit as well, that you started out in the esports. So that was really cool to find out. How did that start?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's an interesting detail, right? A lot of people have really non-traditional beginnings, I would say, in sports broadcasting, and mine's, nothing too dissimilar. So I was studying finance at ASU and doing business, and I did a lot of commercial real estate. I was managing at Amazon, and I was just unhappy, dude. I was like, fuck this, and I needed to pivot. The lowest barrier of entry for combat sports broadcasting is esports. It is EA UFC esports. That community you can get in and very quickly they'll let you, commentate. And it's not exactly the same as like a Fight Pass show or a gig that I have now, but it's an opportunity to broadcast. It's reps, and that's what's important. So started there and worked my way up to the UFC's esports league, which again, I mean, I wish the UFC gave more of a fuck about esports. That'd be pretty cool. And was able to parlay that and leverage it into what it looks like today. So yeah, I'll start with esports.
Absolutely, man. I mean, would that be something that you would want to revisit? Like if UFC Fight Pass were to do like a show about that has to surround, the esports community, is that something you'd want to come back to?
Dude, absolutely. It's a lot of fun and it's low prep, I would say. You could do it remote, which is really easy on, the schedule. So if they were like, "Hey, we're pumping a lot more time and resources into esports and we're putting this big event together," then excellent. And even if they're doing a live event, like we did one ESFL live show in Vegas a couple years back that I flew back in town, drove up the day before, actually no, the day of. It was awesome. I thought it was fantastic. They haven't done one since, but I was blown away. We had like 26 guys flying from around the world compete for. I think it was about maybe 10 grand in like total prizes. So when we think about esports pots, I mean that's nothing huge, but at that time it was the biggest event in EA UFC esports history, and I thought if they did more events like that, dude, the whole fucking scene would pick up. Um, but they haven't, so it hasn't.
It's always like a thing in my mind, especially with all kinds of sports, because NBA went with the 2K league, so they have that going on now, and that's kind of picked up, and a lot of even 2K YouTubers joined out with that. So I think it would be awesome to have that, for UFC, and obviously we'd have to have you commentating on that, obviously.
I mean, it's either myself or Bailey, and I would say that in terms of best esports play-by-play commentators, it's us. I don't like patting myself on the back, but and he's better than me, Bailey, and he's the number one. I'll give him that spot.
I wanted to ask you about your fight on Misfits and kind of how that started. Like how did you and Misfits kind of connect?
I looked at influencer boxing for a long time last year as a really cool vertical. It's a unique environment in combat sports. There's nothing really like it. And I just wanted to get involved. Granted, my online brand is not big. It's good for the niche that I'm in, I would say, but like when you think of some of those other guys on Misfits, I mean, they've got millions of followers. Like I was thinking, okay, there's no chance. I'm never going to be able to get on this fucking show. So I was sitting in Twitter Spaces. There was a lot of most wanted Twitter Spaces that I sat in. I know that guy pretty well. I'm very pumped to see him fight. But there, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to like lay the seeds and network and maybe build some relationships that I could leverage into getting a spot. And nothing was panning out, dude. Like for months, nothing was panning out. So it was mid-August and I was in PFL doing, I was in New York doing PFL semifinals, and Donna Corby, who is a pretty big influencer boxing journalist, if you know him, he works with Happy Punch right now. Donna's a good bud of mine, and we were at dinner once, and he was like, "Dude, let me just text Mams and put you on his radar." And I was like, "Why haven't we done that before? Why are we waiting now? We could have done that long time ago." But so he shoots Mams a text and is like, "Hey man, if anybody falls off of Misfits 9 or you need any last minute replacements, I've got just the guy for you." And later that night, Mams, in the morning, we have a 2-minute phone call. He presents the opponent, Gabe, and I was like, "Yep, here's the money. Yep, here's where it is. Yep, here's the date. Yep, boom, I have a fight." Right. So it was like nothing, 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 and then whoa, all right, now I have to find a coach and go get my ass kicked.
Yeah, no, it's because it's so interesting seeing everybody's stories about being, getting onto Misfits or connecting with Misfits, because I know Most was in, doing a lot of the Twitter spaces for a
Yeah,
while.
that guy is a grinder. I mean,
Yeah.
he's what's funny about Most Wanted is, like, from my knowledge, he has had several big opportunities before potentially, and then he's like completely fucked them up. And so I'm like, the dude is at times his own worst enemy. So like I'm really praying that in 5 days he stays out of his own way, gets the big win, and can complete what is a really fun story so far.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see, because a lot of the smaller creators are getting opportunities. We had
Yeah.
Unbear. I hate to call you a small creator,
I'm a
just
small no, I
but
fit in that. Yeah.
no, it's cool seeing, all these people get opportunities like that. And just the fact that you were fighting Gabriel Silva for your debut fight on Misfits. How,
Yeah.
how did that feel?
Easiest fight ever, am I right? No, yeah, like it was quite that was one of the big parts of why I was so excited about accepting it. I would have accepted anything, but I mean, my interest in the fight just scaled massively because I know Anderson Silva, right? I know his career and his legacy, and that guy is such a legend in my vertical of combat sports. I don't know if the boxing community is super familiar or the Misfits community is super familiar with Anderson Silva, but like fighting his son, his blood was, oh my God. I mean, that was awesome. That's a chapter in my life that I'll never forget. And he's pretty damn good, right? So it was a perfect opponent, and I think both of us got everything we wanted out of that fight week. I demolished him in every verbal exchange, and he fucking destroyed me in the ring. So I'm like, I think each of us got what we came for, and it was perfect. That's kind of the reason why it's tough for me to consider another matchup, right? And fighting again, because I'm like, dude, it won't be better than that fight week. The interest that we had from the combat sports community, guys like Ariel Helwani, guys like Chael Sonnen, pitching in, watching the Twitter engagement was bananas. It was fucking bananas. My whole feed after I got knocked out was just clips of me getting knocked out, and I was like, that's not great for my mental health, I suppose. But like it just showed that it was such an amazing collection of a lot of perfect elements that if I boxed again, it wouldn't be the same level of hype. It wouldn't be the same level of interest, and it wouldn't be the same level of opponent. Gabe was the perfect dance partner for me, and even though I had no chance, I did think I was going to beat him.
Well, I know you've talked about different opponents, and I'll say this before we
Mhm.
move on. I'll say this: you have me convinced. You have me convinced that you were
I had a lot of
gonna
people
knock.
convinced.
You have me convinced you were about to knock out Gabriel Silva.
Hey, you and me both were thinking that I was gonna go out there and do it. No, what's crazy is like, dude, I had zero nerves. I had no stress. that entire fight week. There was no anxiety. And I know that there's a lot of people, especially like mixed martial artists that'll be like, no, that's a lie. I was playing with house money. There was no reason to be stressed. I came in there to get knocked the fuck out. I did my job. Like there was no, I don't know. I didn't have any reason to be. I kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. And as much as I believed I could change it, I mean, I'm a play-by-play commentator. The amount of mismatches I have called where it's a one-sided beatdown and a guy gets dusted in 10 seconds, I'm familiar. I'm familiar with what was going on. And so because of that, I was like, all right, I get to detach from the result and just maximize everything else. And again, I knew that there was nothing he could say in any of the build up or the press conferences or the ceremonial weigh-ins. Like, dude, you are fighting a guy who has never trained, who commentates fights, and took this on essentially 4 weeks notice. I had 3 weeks of training. That's not really that impressive. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not. And so just calling a spade, I was like, dude, there's no like this is easy. This is easy money right here. If this was B Dave in front of me, I would have a much harder time talking shit. That's I think we're gonna segue to other opponents, but I don't like shit talking B Dave is much more different than shit talking Gabe, and that's another reason why I'm like, it's not as much of a layup.
Well, let's talk about that because obviously B Dave is one of the opponents that's been thrown out there as a possibility for your next fight, as well as Derek from Better Media, and I know he's
Uh,
he's a little bit of a he's a little bit of a twig, but
Dude, that guy sucks. I literally was just on his Instagram earlier today. He put out this video of him like sparring a guy in jeans. The dude's wearing fucking Wrangler jeans and he's tooling up Derek. Derek's like every punch, he's just reacting poorly and no offense from Derek. He looks like he has not eaten since July of 2023. You know what I mean? Like the kid needs a burger bad. Yeah, he's like that guy's. I would love to. I've actually spoken to Mams about Derek. Several weeks ago, I was like, "Yo, here's this idiot's profile," and Mams was like, "I'll reach out." So there might be a potential. The ball is in Derek's court. Here's why he should fight me. I'll lay it out for why he should fight me. You get a lot of money, you get a lot of exposure, and you get a lot of respect from the combat sports community for making that walk. Your whole gimmick right now is being this little insufferable insect yelling at the camera, doing your little speed bag drills, going, you guys can talk all the shit you want. Well, fucking back it up, dude. You're the only one yapping. But if you actually get in there, then I will have some small modicum of respect. And personally, I'd love to beat his ass. That's why.
Dude, I love it. I love it. I know there's a lot of people, calling him out because I think a lot of people have the confidence and know that there's an ability to beat him. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people want to see you versus Derek. So I hope that fight is made. But you talked about, the perfection of, having Gabriel as your first fight. And, what if you fought Kimbo Slice Jr., another legend's son?
It is. I have spoken with Kimbo Slice Jr. He seems like a very nice guy. We batted around the idea, but at this current moment, no plans. But I mean, hey, I wouldn't be opposed, right? The legend killer, making that, or I guess the legend loser if he beats me, that would be cemented as it's my label. I think it makes sense. No, again, like I have to be very careful about the next opponent. Like I would want it to have that same type of luster as Gabe. I just know that would be very difficult to capture. And, for me, I wouldn't want 3 weeks of training. I would want at least 5 weeks, which in my current position is difficult to give, right? That's a
Yeah.
lot of time. That's a lot of gigs that I would have to say no to, and money that I wouldn't be making, reps that I wouldn't be getting, networking that I'm not going to be able to do, all for what? I mean, like what? And this has been presented to me because I've had many conversations with people I trust and that are close to me about fighting again. And some people's opinions are like, oh, it's like, why would you fight again? You did what you needed to do. it's done. I mean, you know, like the grappling thing. I did the grappling thing, check that box. Did the leg wrestling and the fight circus stuff, check that box. Repeating things is difficult because it's obviously, you know, been done. It's redundant. And so some people were like, oh, it's kind of an ego play if you fight again. It's not really a career move. It's not really like um a higher level of thinking. It's just the ego. And I'm like, I guess that's kind of fair. But don't we all want to win? Don't we all want to get the hand raised, right?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so I don't know. I mean, I personally like B Dave. I think that's a fun matchup.
Yeah, I was in a space with him the other night. It was his space, and he was talking about fighting you. So it's definitely a matchup I
Um,
think would be fun.
It's good, and it's the thing about it is it has almost every element. It has almost every single element. It's a hard fight. I think it'd be a supremely fun buildup. He's got such a great personality, and I do like him. Like I really like him. I've chatted with him a decent amount. He seems like a great guy. The only issue is it is lacking that level of luster, right? The Kimbo Slice Jr., the legacy, the Gabe Silva, the legacy. B Dave, as much as I really like him. I think he has yet to capture maybe some of that mainstream type of attention or type of um, traction to his name. But it's the most active man in Misfits. I mean, he has quite literally stepped up whenever he needed, and it's a tough fight. He's durable. I do believe I'm a better boxer. You know, I think that what I showed against Gabe was not reflective at all of my actual skill level. You know, I like if you see me hitting pads, that's the funny thing. Like I released a couple pad clips that night, and they were like, "Dude, we didn't think you could box, but like, all right, you know." And I'm like, "Yes, if I'm not fighting someone who's been training for 25 years, then maybe I'll look a little bit better." So that's one of the other reasons why I think B Dave is a perfect matchup is stylistically it. Yeah, there's a lot of potential, but I think the thing would be if I was like getting into it, promoting it. A lot of people that follow me or in the combat sports community would be like, "Who the fuck is this guy that Ben's fighting?" Um,
Yeah.
so the challenge in my marketing would be, okay, I got to educate first of all on who B Dave is to people, make him this monster that he is, and then also have a fun build up. So it's just I don't know. It's more complicated than just accepting a fight. That's what I'm trying to articulate. I don't just sign the dotted line willy-nilly. I try and think about these things.
And I wanted to bring it back to around, your roots right now and about kind of A1 combat. How
Mm.
did that kind of start, and how did you get, in contact with them?
It's really funny actually. So Tom Anderson, who's the president of Uriah Faber's A1 Contact, I reached out to him God, I think early last year, and was inquiring about play-by-play commentary. Right, that is my shtick. That's my passion, and I've DM'd like nearly every promotion inside the continental United States, asking for opportunities, as you have to. And Tom, at that point in time, was like, "Nah, man, we're good. We're pretty set with our team. Thanks for reaching out." And I was like, "No worries, cool." I got the opportunity to join Anthony Pettis' fighting championship APFC on UFC Fight Pass in I think it was May or June of last year, and one of our producers and executives, his name's Dame, great guy. He after a couple shows was like, "Yo, Faber's promotion just got rid of their play-by-play. I'm gonna reach out and see if we can maybe share, you know, and have you join their crew as well." So he reaches out, and then Tom it's me back, and it's an invitation. It's like, "Hey man, we'd love to see what you can do." So that's kind of the funny story with A1 Combat, how it came back around, and it's a really unique experience commentating with UFC Hall of Famer Uriah Faber, UFC striker Corey McKenna, who's a great friend of mine, and in California, like they've got so many badasses, dude. Like the fighting level in Cali is ridiculous. And I think a lot of that could be attributed to Faber. So I mean, I'm bummed because like, I'll be in Leeds. I fly out tomorrow and we've got a Faber show on the 19th that I'm missing. So I'm a little bit sad that I can't do double duty, which I've done many times. It's like literally, I would do it. It's just the flights don't work out. It takes
Yeah.
too long to get from fucking Sacramento to Leeds, England. That's the only thing. But yeah, man, like the UFC Fight Pass work is it's really surreal because it wasn't that long ago that I was doing esports. It wasn't that long ago that I was doing low level shows here in Arizona. And the level of production, the high quality from everybody involved, the production team, the directors, the producers. Like, dude, once you get to that UFC Fight Pass level, and not all shows are like this, but in my experience, it's just another level. It makes me feel like fuck, like finally we're getting some serious traction with the broadcasting.
No, yeah, no, it's dope, and I think what UFC Fight Pass has to offer is really awesome for the MMA community. And obviously, I
Yep.
know there's a lot of promotions out there that are for crossover boxing that are working on getting into the crossover MMA world. So that'll be awesome to see.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, and it's something that I think is going to be a lot more slow of a build than crossover boxing is.
It is. Here's my, and I've spoken with Mams about this before. The only point of contention I have with crossover mixed martial arts is that I understand that there is a big difference between low level boxing and low level mixed martial arts. We can watch low level boxing and still have a good time. And if the build up's fun and we grasp, hey, these guys just started picking up the mitts 2 months ago, we're not expecting fireworks. The other side of the coin is that doesn't really apply to mixed martial arts, because if you get some guys that just started taking grappling, just started taking striking, it's going to look so fucking sloppy, and it's going to be like the worst. You know what I mean? It's just not going to look good. And I feel like they're going to have a hard time getting pro licenses from athletic commissions, right? So it's going to be under an amateur rule set more often than not, which means you're going to have headgear. In some places, you're going to have fucking shin guards. And I know that that doesn't play well on TV. And it visually just looks really low level. So the thing I have is that if you're going to do crossover mixed martial arts, you really can't include a lot of the people that we have on the current Misfits roster, because they don't know. Because they don't know mixed martial arts. And, you want to put on a good product. And look at guys like Dean the Great. Like, that guy's a good fucking boxer now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think if he did MMA, and he did influencer MMA, you need to get mixed martial artists. You got to build up a completely different roster. As much as people would want to say, oh, you want to see Slim inside the cage, you want to see Salt Poppy put on the 4-ounce gloves. It's just not going to happen. It shouldn't happen, in my opinion, because those guys are very dedicated to boxing, and they should stick with that. If you switch up now, all you're going to do is harm, your development everywhere. So if you do influencer MMA, get mixed martial artists, get people that fucking train. And there's a number of influencers that, maybe aren't at the millions of followers level, but a couple 100K, no problem.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think because there's plenty of influencers out there that are experienced in mixed martial arts.
Hmm.
And I know Josh Bruckner being one of them. It's
Yeah.
probably one of the bigger ones in terms of a following. So, I like your take on it, because that's honestly something I haven't really thought about as much. But I think
It's also
that's
just a safety thing, man, as well. Like, it's
oh
easier for
yeah.
me to digest beginner boxing on a big platform versus beginner mixed martial arts. I mean, these guys take and again, it depends on the rule set. Like, dude, I've called fights in several different states, and every AC is so fucking different. New York, for instance, under the amateur novice rule set, and there's novice amateur and then advanced amateur, and then you get pro, right? It's like the rule set is not consistent at all. But some states and some bouts, it's no strikes to the head of a grounded opponent. So let's say you're in somebody's half guard. You can't posture up and just fucking let loose, man. You got posture up and then just go for body shots. And I'm like, that's boring. Like, that's not gonna lead to a fight-ending sequence. And the main thing that people are gonna pull away is, well, why isn't he going to the head? You know what I mean? Let's say someone does go in for a takedown and they eat a knee and then they're lying on the canvas for 5 minutes. That's probably not excellent either, right? Let's say you get some elbows involved and there's a massive cut. The thing I want to keep in mind is, what are people going to criticize? How are people going to try and detract? How are people going to try and invalidate? You know what I mean? Because if you can build up defenses around that before it even begins, then boom, you're golden and nobody can fucking tear you down. But with situations like that, I can just imagine the headlines of someone getting seriously injured and then everybody instantly going, this is why we shouldn't have done this. This is why it's terrible. This is why it's this and that and that and the other. So if all of that's erased and and here's the other thing, and I told Mams this, and he told me his plan, and I was like, that's a good damn plan. If you go about it in a smart way, then you should be fine. But I mean, I hope that anyone and any promotion that wants to get involved in mixed martial arts, thinks about it, does a lot of planning, and does it the right
No,
way.
I love that. I love that. No, I think safety has been, it's actually been a quite a big topic in the small creator scene recently, and I know, with some of these smaller promotions, there's a lot of criticism on how many safety precautions and measures are being put in place. So, I think it's smart because I know if somebody were to get injured in like an influencer MMA match, I know for a fact that not only is it going to affect that entire thing, but it's going to wash over and pour over into boxing, into the crossover
Yeah.
boxing. So, no, I wanted to ask you one last question before we go, man. If there's a message out there to your supporters, your haters, or anyone, any future opponents, so what is your message, man?
Oh man, I mean that's three different messages. Uh, I would say that it has been a very crazy last 12 months. When I pivoted and started trying to plant seeds for the combat sports industry my junior year, I never would have imagined that it'd get to the point where I've got two shows on UFC Fight Pass, other mixed martial arts work, pro bowling work, combat sumo work. Um, it's been a wild journey, and again, fighting Gabe and being involved with Misfits, like that's just shit that you can't really plan for, right? It all comes out of left field. So for anyone that does want to really grind and hit the ground running, understand that not only does it take time and a lot of energy, but shit comes out of nowhere, man. And you sometimes you can't plan for your successes. So when you are feeling down and you are feeling anxious and questioning, is this the right path? Am I doing things correctly? Know that you gotta trust the other elements. You gotta trust the unknown because people are watching. You don't know who's tuning in and who's seeing your work and content. And ultimately, if you put in the hard work, the opportunities will come. Luck is a combination of your effort, plus being there in the right place, right time. So you can minimize luck by networking, by working hard, and constantly grinding. So that's the message. And I'll say this: there's a lot of times where I get anxious, dude. I mean, the last month I've just been largely here in Arizona. A lot of my stuff for 2024 is still developing, and organizations are taking their time to get dates, right? So I felt that myself. So keep working and don't fucking stop, I guess.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I know you're a busy guy, but I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to have you on.
Yeah, anytime, brother. Let me know and I'll be
Absolutely,
there.
absolutely, man. Thank you so much.